Welcome back to Think Design Work Smart. We are back to our normal schedule. Every Saturday, a new video. I'm Alex Bolboaca. I'm coming to you from the Mozaic Works studios. And today, I once again have with me Adi.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What have you been doing since we last seen you?
Oh, many things. Very busy with customers and home. So not a lot of time to do much more. Yeah, a lot of interesting things about helping customers with new digital products and how to, let's say, work in with big organizations with more modern approaches, both on architecture and a way of working. So interesting things to do.
Interesting times.
Yes.
So today, what we have for you is I thought about talking about a topic that probably will not be at all controversial. Just kidding.
Yeah. For us, I guess not, but we'll see.
Project management and agility. So this is. We'll try to be as realistic as possible, right? So when it comes to these things, I don't see them in complete contrast, but there are a lot of nuances here to discuss, and we'll see how much we can discuss in the short time of a video. 1 hour is far from enough for such a topic. So it all started by me seeing Thierry Depaux's tweet. And by the way, Thierry, thank you for generating so much interesting prompts for our videos. I think I've mentioned Thierry a lot of times in the past videos. And what he's saying is, I repeat, I am seriously puzzled, concerned when I see project management and agility in the same sentence. In my humble opinion, these are contradictions. And it's true that I often see on LinkedIn things like agile project manager and as titles. And it sounds a bit weird. And I think there's a lot to discuss here. But perhaps one good thing would be to start by making a difference between agile and agility.
Yes.
Which is a difference that we've made before, but it's important to say again. Agile is a philosophy, it's a way of working. And agility is a property of an organization. And from my experience, if you want agility on an organization, you need project management as well.
Yes. On, let's say, not on all of them, but on most of them, right? Because if you have 5 people, I don't think you need project management.
Yeah. We are talking about large organizations.
Exactly. If you go already to a middle organization, you need project management. If you have a big organization, even more.
Yeah, and in terms of project, and by the way, we see project management. Perhaps this is another distinction that we need to make between project management and project managers.
Yes.
You will always need project management. Actually, agile, even if you're just doing XP or Scrum or whatever, the simplest agile framework you can think of, it has some things related to project management. You still need to do a bit of planning. You still need to do a bit of tasks allocation somehow. Even if you have let's say you are developing everything as a whole team approach with social programming, ensemble programming, or more programming. That is, after all, an allocation rule, right? We are all allocated to work on everything. It's as simple as that. Uh, so you will have project management, no matter what you are doing. Now, what Thierry is saying, and he's talking about this a little bit lower, he says it's about products, not projects. Projects have an upfront defined start and end date. In the end, it is called done, or worse, a whole negotiation happens to make sure it can be called done. Then the team is dismantled and handed over to maintenance, not much agile.
Which is not necessarily true, because you can have a team not dismantled and carry on multiple projects.
Exactly. So you can have a team that is that carries on and works on multiple projects, and you still have the same team.
But going a bit, I'd like to go a bit deeper into this project management thing and what it is. I see project management as a basket of competencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll read from one of the PMI, the most probably well-known institute in project management, what they do. So they say project integration management, project scope management, time management, cost management, quality management, human resource management, communication management, risk management, procurement management, and stakeholder management. So probably not all of these are important when we talk about products and developing products, but some of them are important, like quality, communication, risk, stakeholder, scope. So I guess not all of them, but at least more than half of these are important when we talk about digital products that are done through any form of agile way of working. And I consider that these skills are important for everyone who deals with agility.
Yeah, and I was just in the past, in the last few weeks of 2022, I've trained a lot of people on agile product management, and we actually had a topic where we discussed the difference between products and projects, and pretty much this, but only we don't say that projects are always like this and products are always different. It's projects tend to have a start and end date. Products tend to be longer lived. Projects tend to have a team that is dismantled, but not necessarily. Products tend to have a team that is there for a longer period of time. But it's very important to understand that even if you are using completely agile teams for product development, presumably you'll be using more than one team, because as products get larger, you need more teams to work on that. And then the product manager needs to do a bit of project management, at least deciding what goes to a team, right? And
that's scope management, what I mentioned before.
Yeah, stakeholder management, it's a big part of product management.
And risk management, again. Unfortunately, I see that people consider that risk management is something of the past, and you don't need to, the team will handle it. It's not true. I mean, we look at risk, and we still need to look at risk from many points of view, from architectural point of view, from the team's point of view, economical, business-wise. You need to look at the market. You need to look at so many areas from the risk point of view, security, performance. Those are all risks, and you need to look at them. And I guess, why not use what other people created from the point of view of risk management? I guess they weren't really that stupid, and it's a mixture of a lot of knowledge from the past and you have these skills, you have these tools, and some of them do work in your context.
Yes, and I think that um, perhaps one reason why we don't think so much about these types of risk is because there's an assumption built into Scrum that you'll manage risk by delivering every 2 weeks, and then this is how you manage the risks, by changing course very
Which
quickly.
is true at the team level, but when you have more teams, or when you have stakeholders, or when you have a board or when you work for other people, you will need to do that. And I guess you would feel the this need of looking at risks the most if you have a startup, because out of the sudden, maybe it's your money, or the investors are really pushing to know what they need to, what you're doing with the money. Otherwise, these things are kind of hidden somewhere. Someone does this and you don't see it, but you need to do that, or someone will do that.
And even if you don't have, let's say you are completely free of all these things, you are not free of at least one thing, which is the business environment you are in, the market. The market, you need to look at the market, because otherwise, there are inherent risks associated with the market you are in. Just look at what happened with the pandemic, right? Pandemic came, suddenly you have companies like Airbnb and Booking who have big problems because our market has completely shifted. You have companies like meetup.com that has a problem because meetups are no longer physical.
But there's also the other problem, I think other tools that started off with online type of conferences and so on, they didn't expect so many users. So they have the other type of problem, that they have too many users, too many requests, their systems can handle them, their servers can handle them. So you have another bad problem of too many users. And your services might go down, and that could lead to bankruptcy, really.
Right. So it's obvious, I think we've established that you need some kind of project management anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you need project managers? Would be
and that's exactly a very good question, because I really see, in like how XP is looking at it, or other ways of working like that, is that in fact each one of the team members is a kind of a project manager, because they can handle their own activities, tasks. They have some areas which they cover with, diligently, with I don't know, setting meetings if they need to, communicating well with the others, collaborating well, and those are all skills of a project manager in a way. But they also have their hard skills of whatever they do in the team. And so this is one way of looking at it. You can say that everybody's a project manager in a way, for the small things they have to do. Smaller things than managing a project, they manage a small part of it, and the team gets together, and together they can work like that. But there's also the other thing, like when you have a huge project, or you have a huge product where you need to work on. Let's look at something like Booking, because you mentioned, it's huge. They have tens of teams. Or you can look at Spotify, how they handle it. Some choose to have project managers to handle multiple teams. Some don't. Like Spotify doesn't have, but Booking does.
Yeah, and I think the way
there's now no good way. I mean, both of them work well. Right?
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it, I think there's kind of a slider. You can do project management and product management. Actually, any kind of management. You can do it in a distributed manner or you can do it in a centralized manner.
Yeah.
And in a centralized manner, what this means is you'll have somebody who's responsible, who will also have authority, and typically they will have formal authority within the organization. So having a role such as a project manager or product manager, some kind of management type of role. Or you can have distributed, and in that case you have the same responsibilities, but those are distributed between people or between teams. And you can see this very well at the level of a team. If you are talking about self-organizing teams, what does this mean? It means that they do their own micromanagement. So there's nobody coming from outside and says, okay, you, John, you work on this task, you, Carrie, you work on this task, you, Mary, you work on this task, and you... No, they get together and they decide, okay, I'll take this, I will take this, and so on. And they figure it out somehow. Whether they write tasks or they just talk about it, we don't really care. So basically what we are doing is delegating micromanagement to the team. And the team is, it's their responsibility to do that. Then the next question is, what do you do with synchronization and coordination between teams? Once again, you have two options. You can have somebody who is focused on providing this coordination. Maybe some kind of, the product owner sets a coordination meeting every week and you discuss about the product and where you are and all that. Or the teams figure out how to collaborate between them. Once again, it's distributed, but at the level of the teams. And you can even take it a bit higher, because you can actually distribute product management as well. I found a very interesting case study presented by Rachel Davis from Unruly. Unruly basically distributed the whole product management role to developers. And developers would come with ideas for products, talk to customers, do the analysis, do the architecture, and then come up with a proposal. What do we want to do in the next 2 weeks, let's say? And stakeholders would approve this and say, okay, let's do these 5 things out of 7. But there was no product manager. It was product management distributed within, in this case, XP teams. And so you can go either way, but the reality is you still need the same things that you would be doing, whether it's centralized or not. I think one big difference, though, is the type of management that you are doing, the domain in which you are working. If you have a centralized style of work, it tends to go into the ordered domain from Kinevin, very constrained, right? There are some rules, everybody follows those rules, you are getting very verified, you are asked about your progress and so on. And so there's little way for people or teams to get, let's say, more creative or to solve problems in different ways and so on. Whereas if you are going into the distributed realm, that moves into the Kinevin complex domain, where things emerge, practices emerge. If you go at any point in team or in multiple teams that are working on a product in a very distributed way, it looks like chaos. You don't know what's happening at a specific time, but somehow it emerges into the right direction if you set the correct constraints around it. And then management is about finding out what those constraints are, so that you can get the maximum out of creativity and ideas and all these nice things while going in the right direction. So I think this is maybe a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen project managers who manage to work with teams that are longer lived, who
Yes.
delegate a lot of the things, because as a project manager, it's not absolutely necessary to have the whole plan with Gantt charts and task assignment and all that.
That's one way of doing it, but it's not the only way.
Yeah.
And I think my personal view is that this way of working is not suitable for software development, but it's suitable for other areas, for other types of projects. Okay.
So I think where it is very valuable is with, let's say you have a completely agile organization with a lot of teams working on different products and so on, and they are working independently. But then you suddenly have to implement something like GDPR. That requires a lot of coordination, and you can do this in a distributed manner, kind of like, teams, you need to do GDPR, figure it out. Or you can do it in a more centralized manner where you have a project manager who goes to legal, marketing, all the departments, IT, security, and the different development teams, and figures out what needs to be implemented in each of those and so on. And my intuition is that in this case, probably a project manager is better suited than... Just think about one thing. What will happen if you have 20 different teams asking the legal department the same questions in 20 different sessions? It's hard to coordinate these things without a centralized approach.
Yes.
Now let's see what else they said. So one argument here: not everything is a product, not every team is a product. Team. Upgrading the web servers is a project. Migrating from MySQL to cloud-hosted Progress is a project. Both have start finish markers, yet both can be done in an agile way. This raises an interesting point. What do you do with the infrastructure?
Exactly. Because it's a complicated topic. I think you have kind of an economy of scale when you have a very big organization. I think you still need to have infrastructure team. It doesn't make sense everybody to know everything. It's a lot of knowledge and it would be wasteful. I think you couldn't even resist on the market with this approach.
And of course, you could say that ideally you'd have all of this containerized and it wouldn't matter that much, but in reality...
Even like that, someone containerizes them. So
yeah, even...
new tools appear, so I don't know. It's not that easy to say that it's not a simple task, let's say.
Yeah, and I think here also there's a difference. So there are some problems that fit within the order domain. So let's say migrating from MySQL to cloud-hosted Postgres. If you've done this 100 times before, then probably you have a good idea what it entails. And then you can also look ahead, and then it doesn't need to be treated in an agile manner. But if it's something that you've never done before, I don't know, switching from MySQL to serverless, that sounds like a much bigger problem, because then you need to split into smaller things, you need to iterate, so basically whenever you need to iterate, you're moving into complicated or complex domains, and then you need a more agile approach for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe another thing, I made an analogy with the participants at our courses, and I was trying to explain the difference between projects and products, but through an analogy with what happens in the real world or in a non-IT world.
Mm.
And I would say a project is more like if you are building a house, right? You get a team of constructors, you get a start date, hopefully you get an end date that is
they might respect,
and they build a house. Once they build a house, you don't see that team anymore. I mean, you're done. And maybe they still work together, maybe they won't work together again, but that's a project, right? You end up with a product, it's the house, but that is your responsibility now. It's no longer there. And when I think about, I was trying to come up with an analogy for software, and I think a good analogy is producing a TV series. Because when you are producing a TV series, you have a team that stays with the TV series for a longer period of time. You actually have multiple teams because you have writers teams, you have actors teams, and the production team. And let's say you need to produce a new episode every week. So there's again a kind of cycle that you go through. And you also have something similar to technical debt. You cannot suddenly switch the series into a completely different direction. Based on how you develop the characters before and how you define them, this limits your future stories that you can tell, right? So, and in that case, you have the team that is there for more years. So, 5, 6, 7 years if the series is successful. And this, to me, it's a better analogy than what we have. Okay, and then later on, Joanna Rothman entered the conversation.
Yeah, and I really liked that article that she wrote.
She posted an article.
It makes more sense on the whole topic, I think.
Yeah. How to recognize effective project and program management. Joanna Rothman has a lot of experience. If you haven't heard this name before, she's very experienced. So it's worth looking at what she has to do. Several people on social media have denigrated the terms project manager and program manager. These people claim there is no need for either role in an effective team, especially an agile team, because the team can manage its own deliverables. While some agile teams can manage their own deliverables, that's not the only role for a project or program managers. Effective project and program managers exist to support the teams. They do that with assessing and managing project or program risks for the team's effort and the overall product, what we already discussed. Facilitating the team's collaboration, kind of touched on this with coordination, and clarifying the objectives so everyone stays headed in the same direction. This is extremely important. It's one of the most important things you can do. Have a clear objective for the next period of time. And it's, as we discovered through exercises in courses that I'm doing with our clients, it's one of the hardest things to do, actually. Project and program managers who support their teams make it possible for the team to succeed. Okay, and then she goes into risk assessment and foster and support collaboration. Clarify the product and team objectives. So a few questions. I'm going to focus on this one. A few questions that need to be answered. Who is this product for? What can they do when we are done with our work and ship the product? What are our release criteria? So these are things that, at least things that need to be understood. And then another thing that she says is effective project and program managers offer servant leadership. And I think this is understated. Let's not forget that servant leadership precedes agile.
Of course.
Right. It's not an agile invention. It was there before, and it was there in project management.
Yes, and it is a really good practice that was started being very well adopted by the agile ways of working.
I actually remember reading, before Agile, I remember reading an article about the Silicon Valley style of management.
Mm-hmm.
And that was described as the manager's role is to remove all the furniture
Mm-hmm.
from that comes before the teams, basically to make room, to make way for them to move forward. And this doesn't imply, Gantt charts and assigning tasks and so on, but it's more focused on serving the team to move forward. And this was before I learned about Agile. So.
Yes, exactly.
And I think, there's a book called Manage It.
Yeah, I think that this is a book that John Rotmans wrote, where she talks more about this.
All right. So, there's another comment here which I'm not sure I completely agree with. These are not the same. Project management is primarily a financial process that enables agility, because without money, no agility. I don't think that's completely true. I mean, you can do budgeting in other ways.
Yes. You just look at Beyond Budgeting from Bjarte Bosnes, and you'll see how you don't use the project PMI project management way, not at all. It's just another way. And I don't think project management the main treat of project management is money or financial. I don't get that.
Yeah, usually what I see in organizations is that project managers have little to do with budgets. They have more to do with other things, with scope and what we discussed until now. Budgets tend to come set for them.
Or even if they have something to do with budgets, is just a small part of their work.
Yeah. Another interesting comment: concerned, yes, contradicting, no. With lots of dependencies and low-tech excellence, it's easy way to survive until you improve. It's fair to have PMs while increasing agility.
Yes.
And I think it's a fair thing. Let's not forget that, okay, if we are talking about companies like Unruly or Spotify, or who have technical excellence, who have all the infrastructure in place so that they can do continuous delivery and things like that. Of course, it's easy to to learn a bit of project management and distribute the things between people. But if you have hundreds of bugs that you need to manage and to solve every week, situation changes drastically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was, I think, the general view. So project management is necessary. Project
But we didn't touch on
managers,
one thing. You know, what do you think about agile project manager?
uh,
Sometimes we see this role, you know, this title, agile project manager, and maybe this is what Thierry is thinking about.
yeah, I mean, this doesn't sound right to me. It sounds really weird. Because I think if we are talking about agile, we would be talking about the roles related to it, right? So I'm thinking about teams. I'm thinking about maybe coordination between teams, but in that case, coordination between teams will probably be at the level of product, right? So I would be thinking product management teams. And these are the levels that I'm looking at. And you'll have product managers or product owner. I don't care how they are called, but they should be one. And then multiple teams working there. And then I could have project manager, but I wouldn't call them agile project manager. It's project managers that need to do like interdepartmental things. That's coordination and so on. Now there's a question though about if you're doing outsourcing or some kind of work for hire, you have teams. Who talks to customers?
The what's the name?
Account manager.
Account manager, yeah.
But the account manager will not talk about scope. They will mostly talk about business stuff.
Yes.
So you
have two options. If you either have a project manager or you integrate the people in your team so that you don't need a project manager.
Right, but in this case, I would think you have a product owner at the client side and the proxy PO on your side.
Well, it depends on how you outsource, right? You might outsource just the skills and then you don't need it. You have just one product owner. Or you can have other approach where the team members that you have outsourced will communicate with, or we take this role of proxy PO. They could wear this hat as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So if I were to find a reason to call a role agile project manager, maybe if it's someone who does servant leadership but at a higher level, not inside of a team but between teams or something like that. But I think we could find a better name than that, because it doesn't express quite correctly what are the responsibilities.
Yeah, but I guess this is what people are concerned about typically about this type of roles.
Yeah. Although, once again, if we are talking about agility, particularly for large organizations, I think agility requires a few project managers, not many, not one for every team, not one for every product, but a few.
And with a bit of a different agenda or skills needed than the standard PMI type of project manager.
Yeah.
It's not, it could be the same name, but it's not the same approach, they're not the same activities or same tasks, and it's different.
Yeah, and in that case,
what John Rotmans was saying there, and servant leadership.
yeah, exactly. Right. So I think we have reached some interesting conclusions.
Mhm.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm not that sure why this distinction appears. At least this abruptly is one or the other, you know. I don't really understand why this situation appears. Maybe it's just because project managers were really not that well loved in the past on how they would work with in software development, in digital products, and so on. I don't get it. Maybe it's that, you know, it's bad experiences in the past.
Well, I can tell you why I do have an issue when I hear. I mean, personally, when I hear about project management in an agile organization, I kind of get slightly. It's a yellow flag, let's say, and it's true. It's a cultural thing. So basically, you had project management, which was very strict. When I started programming, we had a project manager who would create Gantt charts and assign tasks from the very beginning, like have a huge project plan with tasks assigned and so on.
And estimations and
Yeah, and they would be reworking that like every week because everything was changing every week. So they would have to go back and do a lot of busy work. And I think this is a big problem. Even today, when I hear about project managers, I think one big risk is to have that much busy work. It's a lot. It used to be a lot about paper pushing, about having these plans, presenting the plans, asking us why you estimated that, and now you it took you longer than what you estimated. Well, because things change, right? So it was a very bad experience with project management. And agile came as a reaction to this. It's a cultural reaction to these kinds of methods, right? Like in artistic currents. And it's same idea. It was a reaction. It came to replace all that with more collaboration, more focused on, basically the way I see Scrum in particular is that it's obvious that it started from developers up.
Yeah.
Because the role of product owner is really just there so that somebody can give us requirements and we don't have to think about anything for 2 weeks. You get everything we need in the beginning, and 2 weeks you leave us alone to do whatever we want. So it's obviously a very developer centric kind of way of thinking. But in terms of general, let's say, efficiency of the process, if you have project managers who are just doing paperwork, that's a really bad use of project management.
Yeah.
And if they are just bugging people with, you said it would take 5 hours, so it took 2 days and things like that, it doesn't bring any value. The real value, I think, of project management is when you look at things like the ones that we discussed, risks and facilitating communication and coordination, things that are difficult to do because, let's be honest, because teams tend to live in their own kind of space. They will focus a lot on what they are doing, which is great. They get to focus on that. But then there's a lot more than just that team in order to get great products, in order to not pay fines, in order to be up to date with regulations and all that. So you need somebody to push a little bit on that and to do a bit of coordination and so on. But it has to be with a light touch. It cannot be something that it used to be like, I'm assigning you to do this, and if it doesn't happen by the date that I say, then you'll be punished. It's
Yeah.
right. So it was bad experiences indeed. And I also think that we focused a lot on these types of processes, and people find it nicer to work in this way. And it's because of this, when we hear about project management, I think we often imagine that somebody will come and ask us those weird questions that we don't have answers to.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but still, this could mean that in some other situations, project managers were very different than pushing paper and pushing people around to finish stuff sooner and making pressure and.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've seen a kind of proto-agile approach with project managers. So I've seen project managers who are doing kind of daily coffee break.
Yes.
Where we would discuss about our issues and so on, what should be a daily scrum. And I've seen servant leadership, and I've seen goal setting that was really good, and I've seen risk management that was really good. We still had to do estimates in a very weird way, but that was the business, basically, because back then I was working in outsourcing, and so clients were asking for estimates and plans and things like that. But in time, we also switched from a large chunk that we were developing into delivering in increments. And it wasn't exactly the same thing that we would be doing with Agile, but it was much, much closer to that, and it worked much better, and it was still with project managers. So I've met a lot of good project managers who are able to do that and to kind of shield the teams from those weird questions and pressure from outside. So acting like servant leaders as well. And that was good. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that I'm sure that there were these other type of project managers who handle things in a different way.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe one thing that we don't realize, that project management is such a vast domain, right? Because you can do project management for building bridges, for I don't know, organizing meetings, or all kind of things like this, right? For political campaigns, for it's you have a lot of types of project management. It just happened that we tried the wrong type of project management, one that doesn't apply to software and to creative work.
Exactly.
But we've learned better, and now we are still doing project management, but only much more of it is distributed. I think that's the difference, actually.
And then the second thing I'd like to say is that in the, let's say, traditional PMI type of project management, I never got the idea why you need to assign tasks to adults, like they are kind of kindergarten children who don't remember to wash their hands and before eating, or it sounds and it looks really weird from my point of view, patronizing in a way, that you need to assign very small tasks to someone who's an adult, who has, I don't know, some studies, who has some skills, and you need to tell them in detail what they need to do. It's not it's not at all effective in this way, because you're not using the skills and the knowledge of that person. Instead, someone needs to coordinate everything and needs to centralize everything. Of course, this would break at some moment.
And I think that is more of a symptom of trying the wrong type of project management on creative work. Because if I'm thinking about, let's say you want to build a large skyscraper or something like this, you have project management there, right? But you'll have a bunch of teams, and each team will have a team leader or an engineer who's assigned, and they will have very specific responsibilities, and they figure out how to, they get the plans and they know how to build the thing and so on. So you have you don't have like very small tasks that are assigned per people, but you have a kind of distribution of responsibilities, and that is part of project management. But then when I guess when they tried to do the same for software development, because this was the only thing that we knew how to organize the work, it didn't work. We would get huge delays. And so the thought, the intuitive reaction to this is to get more control. Try to get more control. And how do you get more control? You split into even smaller things and assign to people, and make people responsible and hold them responsible for finishing in time and all that. But this worked even worse, right? And this is
because people would then say whatever work they know that maybe something will work bad, and they take less risks, and they say, okay, I think this takes me 2 hours. Okay, 3 days.
exactly.
And you'll of course in 3 days be done. And if someone comes to you and says after 2 days, what you're I'm working, I'm very busy.
Exactly.
Instead of asking, let's see what was the impediment, how can I help you, and create a sense of trust, then probably the person, instead of 2 hours, would say 4 hours, and maybe it would be done in 3.
Yeah.
Never be asked, why did you say 4 and was 3? It's just a thing of estimation, and if you trust the person, that's it.
Yeah, and the reason it's so different is because if you are building a skyscraper, the people who are doing that, they've already, done plumbing, they've already done electricity, they've hundreds of times, and it's just once again. But when you do software, it's something new every time. Even if it looks similar to something you've done in the past, it's still new because it's on a different technology, different code base, different people you are working with, and so on.
Even with us, with the construction, sometimes you might be doing things in a different way, especially with, let's say, more ambitious projects sometimes.
Yeah, but in that case, you'll probably do training or something, before that.
And it takes more time, so.
Yeah, to manage the risks, and if you're doing it properly. So I think we just went in a very wrong direction with project management in this. And I also think another issue was that we took the building metaphor and we tried to replicate that. And in building, you have very specialized people, so we try to have very specialized people in software as well. You have people who do only analysis, people who do only testing, people who do only development. And then, of course, you needed a lot of coordination between those because, and then you need a lot of project management, but you're still losing a lot of information, a lot of knowledge by moving, basically through the telephone principle. It keeps going through people. And so it was a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of software. And I think we are still living with that today.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess we're in a better situation now, in a better place, right? With a better balance.
Yeah.
Still not there yet, but
I think the next hurdle will be to realize that software is really a very humanistic activity. Software development, because you are developing software for people, with people. The code you are writing is for people and not for the machine.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I think we are done for...
Yes, we're done. We're done with this topic. I'm very curious what people think about our analysis of this topic.
All right. Well, so that's it from us. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments. We love your comments. And if you find anything that is attracting your attention, let us know. Yeah. Maybe something we said that is correct, maybe something we said that is completely incorrect. Let us know. It will be interesting to have conversations about this later on. This is it from us. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you kindly for the view. And until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart.